I think I've been speaking on singleness, dating. Okay. Okay. And I guess she chose me because I've been single for so long. Or shall I say, I've been single since I've been saved, and it's been a long road. But when we look at being single and being saved in the church, or dating for so long, growing up, and if we know in a Pentecostal church, you know, the strict churches, dating was taboo. All you knew was that you're not supposed to be dating, and that's it. You know, you heard God didn't honor dating, and you know what, it was only marriage, and you didn't have any business dating. So for so long, being in and out of the church, you would sneak and you would date, you know, and you would always fall short of God's glory because you wanted a companionship. And I think one thing that single women in church have with accepting God totally is having to give up companionship. Because, see, now we got to give up these lousy, no-good men. You know, now we got to give up people who's not believing like us, who's not loving the God that we love. So when I first got saved, that was an issue for me. Like, okay, now I'm gonna have to give this up, and you know, and I'm not gonna be able to do that. And I remember one time being saved and hanging out with my girlfriend at the Shark Bar in New York, and this is how long ago it's been. And she knew I had turned my life over to God, and we were waiting to be seated, you know, to eat, and we stopped at the bar because she was getting a drink. Now, I was going to get a drink because, see, I was just newly saved, and my thing was, all right, God, you know, you take it from me, you know, when you get ready, because I want this White Russian. So when she ordered her drink, she looked at me, she said, what, you going to have, a Coke? So now because she said that, I had to get a Coke. Because I knew at that point, if I said I'm turning my life over to God, then I knew I was being watched at that point. So now I'm sitting there and I'm drinking a Coke, and I really don't want this Coke, but because she said that. But I said that to say that, you know what, in the beginning when you get saved, if you don't give yourself room to grow in Christ, then you know what, you will go out and you will have those experiences and you will fall short. And especially when it comes to a man. I hung out with this guy for almost 10 years, and I was claiming salvation. 10 years claiming salvation, hanging out with someone. Because at first when you do it, you say, okay, you know what, I love God, and you tell them, okay, I love God, and they say, yeah, they understand. You know, then as time go by and as you hang out, then you start compromising yourself. Then you start doing things that you know that's not pleasing in the eyesight of God. So now it's not about just throwing on some sweats and going to the movies. Now it's about making sure, you know, your underwear and your panties match. You know, because you already have it set in your mind, you know, how the end of the night is going to go. But yet you are claiming salvation. And all this is happening because you're not giving yourself room to grow in Christ. Now, do I think there's something wrong with dating? I don't think there's anything wrong with dating as long as you give yourself room to grow in Christ first. Because once you are mature in Christ and you're eating the meat of the word, then you'll realize that, you know what, it's not a problem with going out to the movies. And then you know what, and then once I'm dropped off at home, or if we're driving separate cars, it's not a big issue for me if we don't go home together. It's not a big issue for me if you don't kiss me. You know why? Because God is everything that I need. So now I can go and I can hang out with you, and then now I can come home. And I won't feel like because you didn't touch me, you don't love me. Because you know what I notice what men do? Men use love to get sex. Women use sex to feel loved. And what we have to do is, when we are in a relationship with God, we have to realize that, yes, God is all that we need. And you know what? And it's all right to have dinner for two every once in a while. And you know what? And it's all right to get a little trophy piece on your arm when you got a function to go to. Because I get tired of going everywhere with girls all the time. You know, I get tired of looking at y'all all the time. You know, sometimes I want some triceps and some biceps on my arm, and I want to be able to walk into my job's Christmas party. You know, and then when the night is over with, then you go home and I go home. But that is when you are mature in Christ. Because if you don't give yourself room to grow, you will constantly fall off. I remember one time I was dating this guy, and he was saved, and this was the guy I told y'all about the last time, the Pentecostal guy. And we weren't living saved, but we said we were saved. And then one time I made him mad, and he cursed. And he said, see what you do? You make me curse, and I'm trying to live right. I said, what? Close your ears, Mom. I was like, I'll make you curse, and you're not living saved, but you don't think you're not living saved when I'm sitting on top of you? I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, and this is how long it goes. When people watch, when you say that you're saved, and first they'll say, yeah, they agree with it. First they'll say, yeah, you know what, well, I honor your God. And then they'll have motives in the back of their head. And it's all right for us to date as Christian single women, but we have to date with limitations. You have to know your limit. When I was drinking in the world, I knew my limit. I knew I could only stand 2 drinks because I didn't like the headache. I didn't like the room spinning. My girlfriend would say to me, oh, you getting water. Oh, you acting like an old lady. No, I know my limit. So when we go out and we date, we have to know our limit. And like I said, for so long, the church has said, don't date, don't date, don't date. And then if they found out you were dating, the first thing they said, well, if he loved you, he'll come to church with you. Now you bring him to church. Well, now if he loved you, he'll get saved. Now you're like, what? So now he's saved. You know? Well, now if he loved you, now he'll wear a suit and tie to church because he'll know that that's how you're supposed to dress. And then, you know, we get so caught up into all of that that we move God out of the picture because now what we're doing is what the church said instead of giving ourselves room to grow in God. Because then once you have grown in God and you go out with somebody, then you know what? Then you see things differently. You don't see things the way you saw it when you were falling off here and there, you know, when you were straddling the fence. Now you see what true love is. Now you see, like, you know what, I don't have to stand for this. I don't have to go for this. You know what? Because this is what God said. And although I never felt like I was not loved coming up in my household because I came from a 2-parent household. I came from siblings. And I always felt love in the household. You know, my mother always loved us. She always embraced us. She always kissed us. You know, my father was the type of person, you just knew what he wasn't saying. You know, like if you said, I love you, you'd be like, yeah, and you know, I love you too. So I never felt like I was missing something and I had to go out there and get it. But it was just that you just desired that companionship. And there's nothing wrong with desiring that companionship. For so long, the church have taught us that it was so wrong to desire that companionship, to desire to go out and date and have a good time. And it's all right to do it, but you have to do it with limitations. Because you can compromise yourself so much and for so long that it doesn't even bother you anymore. That you begin to do it willfully now. Now it's not a thing where you've done it and you say, God, forgive me. Then it becomes a thing where now it's premeditated. You know, now you're planning to do it. You know, now you're packing overnight bags. You know, now you're on your way. And now God is nowhere in the picture. But you have to give yourself room to grow. And I think that this is what stops so many single women from giving their life totally to God. Because the first thing they think is that you have to take the solemn oath of loneliness. And you do not have to do that. You can be single and saved and satisfied in every area of your life as long as you give yourself room to grow in God. I hope you got something out of some of my life story.